Thanks for that. Okay, so that we talked about the Muslims enforcing the borders. So, one more thing I want to say, and this is, the cost. Again, we're going to talk about the hostages, and we're going to talk about how badly they were treated. I just want to state clearly that just because we're talking about hostages, it doesn't mean that we don't care, or I don't care about the innocent people that are dying, or that the less important, or this is not a competition. We just wanted to talk about the hostages, and we wanted to share how Hamas is like that. That's what we choose to talk about, right? Everybody is talking about free Palestine. It's not, there's no shortage of that, right? That's there's a shortage of people on the other side. So this is what we wanted to talk about. The majority of Israelis support the deal ending the Gaza war for the release of all the hostages. So even Israelis are in support of ending the war if simply the hostages can be released, right? Like Gaza has been wiped, like completely flattened. Hamas is in tatters. The game's over. Like they should just release the hostages. And even, there's the reason I wanted to share this is because it shows you that not all the Jews, not all Israelis are on the same side. There's a government here, a human government. I'm completely in favor of the state of Israel existing, the right to exist, the right to defend themselves, but also at the same time, the human beings that are running the country. And there are critics as well of the Netanyahu government. I'm not a politician. I don't know much about politics, but I did want to show that there is differing views on what to do. And so at this point, there are people also calling for the government to end the war. And I just don't know how that's going to happen. But, I did want to say that.
Well, there is one thing needs to be pointed out to be very fair, which is that as the Israeli government has been insisting, which is understandable, at this point, simply releasing the hostages will not be enough. So even if the Hamas side and their collaborators inside Gaza release the hostages at this point, it might lead to Israel agreeing to some amounts of making plans for how to arrange a ceasefire and how to permanently solve the situation, but it will not be the end of the war. The end of the war can only come after if Hamas fully lays down their weapons and completely surrenders. So there is simply, after this point, understandably so, no peace possible without Hamas completely surrendering, completely laying down their weapons, aside from also releasing the hostages. Of course, Hamas is aware of this. They are aware that Israel will never again agree to any other solution after what they did on October 7, which is why they want to drag it out as much as possible and not release the hostages. Because the next step would be them surrendering somehow. And they're basically at the end of their lives. They're like a desperate little
Coinage,
whatever
dog, cat, something,
and
animal.
they don't have any other move to pull. This is their last move, and they're trying to drag it out as much as possible.
David, you had something, we talked about this before. You were saying about the lesser of the two options.
Oh yeah, it's Islam specializes in putting people in situations where there's no good outcome. It's only bad outcomes to choose from. And just at the simplest level, I wish I'd remembered where I saw this, but I was watching an interview. This is right after the war broke out, and a Jewish, I don't know if he's a journalist or what, but he was pointing out, for people who don't understand the situation that they're in, he said, just imagine a situation. Imagine a situation. You're standing there with your child, and you've got a gun, and there's a guy, and he's got a gun, and he's pointing his gun at your child, but he's hiding behind his child. This is what it feels like. It's like, I don't want to shoot this guy's child. I don't want to. But he's about to shoot my child and he's hiding behind his child. He goes, that's what it feels like. I don't want either one of these. I don't want to have to shoot his child to stop him, but I don't want him shooting my child either. And it's like, either way, I either let my child get killed, which is really bad, or I become a child killer in my effort to stop to protect my child. And it's like, what do I do? What do I do in this situation? And it's kind of like the situation that the whole country is in. If you let people slide on what they're doing, then your people die. And if you crush them, will you stop them? But you're at the same time, then you're blasted around the world as evil. Look at what you're doing. And so it's like, no matter what you do, you're bad for one reason or another.
And
Yeah.
add to that this whole the whole factor here, which you basically just addressed. But in that situation, if the father now simply in order to stop his own child from being killed, fires and thereby kills the child and the adult on the other side, then he will be depicted as evil, while the other side will be depicted as the victim. If, however, this guy does nothing and he just stands there, and the other side, the other guy who is holding the hostage kills everyone in question, he will still be depicted as the hero, and the Israeli guy will be depicted as deserving of death. This is how wicked the situation is.
Yeah, I'd say that's how bad it is. The number of people dead on both sides, I mean, it's just massive. 61,000 people plus in Gaza and 1,200 people on the Israeli side. Of course, Hamas knew this when they went along with this. I'm pretty sure they knew this was going to happen. They still did it. They sacrificed basically, I don't know if they knew it was going to be this bad or not, but clearly they went along for the ride knowing this. And okay, we talked about this. There's still 58 people in captivity to this day, and that's kind of the preamble. Anti-Semitic incidents. I don't know how many of these are violent versus like other forms of hate crimes, spitting, harassing, abusing. I've seen so many videos of Jews just going about their days in different places like New York, getting like shouted at and like abused and attacked online, of course, as well. It can be quite scary to be a Jew. And again, it's not, sometimes, someone might say, well, it's better to not be dead. Yes, that it's just because one is bad doesn't mean the other one's not bad. Both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
By the way, you see that 4,329 bar there for the far left in 2024. That's kind of like the airtight case for why Jews need a place. Jews need a country where they can defend themselves, right? It's like, matter of fact, Sam Harris said this when he was talking about why he considers himself a Zionist now. He said basically, after the Holocaust, you had this idea for a while. It's like, well, yeah, anti-Semitism. Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of anti-Semitism here and there or something like that, but it's not really a problem. It's not really a huge problem. So how really important is it for people to have their own country when we've moved on from that? The world has moved on from being like that. And it's like, no, it seems like at any given moment, a switch can flip and death to the Jews, death to the Jews, death to the Jews. And so it's like, I don't know. It's like, no, maybe Jews just aren't safe wherever they are.
There's only one Jewish state in the world, and there's so many Muslim states. And it's the only real thriving democracy in the Middle East. And so, yeah, for these reasons as well, I do support its existence. Okay, just going to take a couple super chats and then we'll get on to the actual topic. Oh, wait,
there's just one thing that I want to add here, which is that as much as we talk about, anti-Semitism suddenly rising and being, coming again to the surface and so on, I think that people generally in the world fail to recognize and should recognize one thing, which is that the primary reason why this is happening, why we are talking about the conflict right now, is that it involves Muslims, and it involves Muslims and it involves Jews. The left in the West is very prone to simply adopt whatever a certain population online that claims to be the victim says. Whatever is popular as a victim narrative is adopted by the left in the West very, very quickly. But they wouldn't be, this victim narrative wouldn't be this loud and wouldn't be this strong and prominent if it wasn't Muslims all around the world unifying, because they fight about everything, but there's only one thing that they unify about, which is Jews and Palestine. So they come together and they strongly, in huge numbers, start repeating this message that this is oppression, that they have done absolutely nothing wrong, that this is complete injustice, and so on. And immediately those naive people on the internet and on college campuses who listen to the victim narrative pick that up and start running with it. There are much worse atrocities going on as we speak. None of these people talk about them. They don't talk about the issues in Sudan. They don't talk about the issues in China going on. Everybody has made it their most important concern that the war in Gaza is happening, although it is it is a defensive war. Israel is not the aggressor here. Israel is actually the defender, as brutal as it might look right now. But they have to just go with whatever the popular narrative is. So this is the Muslim aspect needs to be recognized of it. It is because of the high number of Muslims around the world and the high number of people who will play the victim in the situation that we suddenly have all the attention on Israel and all the attention on Jews. It's not just people becoming randomly anti-Semitic.
True. That's a good point. Yeah, and that's the whole history of Islam, and the conflict that Muhammad had with Jews is playing out and has become immortalized forever and ever under Islamic teachings. And unfortunately for the rest of the world, this is going to play out forever and ever.